our gym to go through some of the movements and behaviours that we were describing on Physio Matters 53 with Adrian Mcgregor, one of Choose Health patients, kindly offering not just his voice but now his body to help you to understand it. And so I think what we're going to go through first and foremost is try to identify of that journey that is described, three, let's call them, they're not distinct areas, but distinct times in that journey. First one being when he was feeling particularly structurally vulnerable and moving in certain ways, through to being trained to move a certain way to protect the spine, followed by some of the stuff we've been working on together to try and liberate movement as we described it in the podcast. So again, I introduce Adrian Mcgregor. Say hello.
Hello.
What would you say is the first, could you give us a clue as to how you moved early stages?
Well, the first phase would be when I thought I'd injured my back. I think we talked on a podcast where I just made an association between event, injury, it's got to be that, so that's why I'm in pain. It was anything in flexion, so sitting used to be really uncomfortable, so ignore the way I sit down, this would be sloppy way of sitting down now. But at the time, I was forever fidgeting on one side, one butt cheek. So if I was driving the car or sitting down, this would have been very painful. And to get out the chair, it would have been to not even move the back. And I couldn't get into full extension. So I seemed to be hovering around in this position a lot before I eventually worked through the pain to come up in almost into an upright full extension.
Right.
So the reverse of that would have been gingerly sitting down. And I'm not bracing at the moment because I weren't doing any of that. I'm just
right. And reaching for the chair.
And if anything was, if I had to go on the floor for anything, it probably would have been just not trying to move it at all before you eventually get down to the position of sleep, and sleep would have been just stop in that position and don't move.
Right.
So this is prior to surgery.
Yeah.
Again, getting up very gingerly.
So everything's broken into lots of stages.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it makes sense.
Sitting.
Easing back into
Easing
it.
back
For
in.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fearful moving, but not necessarily braced.
Guarded.
Okay, and then we go on to the approaches that were learnt through the McGill Institute, I think it's called, and that process then, as you described it in the podcast, did take a step in the more active direction. But how were you then trained to move? Can you demonstrate some of those movements for us?
Well, so I've done this. I've been grooved in the stabilisation exercises, which again, really positive because they got me moving. I've been doing them for a while. I've built up the endurance. But then life then becomes more of a, and let's just do the seated position first. So seated would be this position. It's stepping up like this to come out that position. Normal walk, but a very mild contraction of the stomach wall, the core.
So still conscious though.
Yeah. So it's not a big brace as in I'm going to deadlift.
But you're conscious of
but
that.
I am very mildly bracing. If I was to pick something up, then the activation will be based on what you're picking up. So a pencil to a weight, it's still an activation. So the seated position, still trying to maintain, prevent the micro.
The hands are relevant, so you were trying to keep the torso
yeah.
Yeah.
It's this. It's almost what someone would recognise as a squat.
Right.
Even cleaning teeth would be sink.
Yeah.
Cleaning teeth. It's still maintaining that position.
Right. Okay.
If I was to pick that ball off the floor
Yeah.
under the old way, I'll show you how I pick it up.
And just a few items of various different weights.
It would be looking at this type of way of picking it up. So, again.
Right, so you...
In other words, I wouldn't just pick it up like that.
Sure. And you were trained into... right, okay.
Yeah.
What about that ball then?
If I was to pick that ball up, it would have been a easiest way. I mean, that probably would have been a no-no there. I still would have
Right, you just still come down. So you were recognising, so the distinction you made there is you went as low as you felt you could without
I've got
having to posterior tilt. Yeah.
Ankle limitation. Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of that anterior and posterior tilt, that again was quite key. It was always a neutral. So rather than someone being in full tilt, posterior, anterior, it was looking for the sweet spot of the neutral spine. I'm maintaining the neutral spine to pick up weight. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I think that's a great point, because I bet all the listeners and viewers probably underestimate the lunges part of that. They think of the squat, or the deadlift sort of movement. So would this? I mean, these are relatively heavy. Both of them 10 kilograms actually. Would that be? I mean, that's really light. That's just a boxing pad. Would the approach be any different to that? So you'd still drop to a lunge for that?
I would still stop to a lunge for that.
To minimise micro movement.
Micro movement, yeah. No, it'd still be. I mean, it's patterned. I'm still grooved to do it anyway. I probably will even what I've learned. I probably would still.
Sometimes you fall back into that.
And then going back up.
Can you get on and off the floor like you did with the other one, which was fearful? How would you?
Some of the moves that I was also grooved in were these DNS moves.
Yes.
So, for example, let's go into bear. These sort of positions.
Right.
So these help to groove them patterns. So position, you can easily see where you go to this position.
Right. Okay.
Well, guess what's not moving at all?
Yeah.
The spine.
And your breath holding there a little bit. Is that conscious, or is that just it comes for the ride?
Yeah, I am engaging a little bit of my core to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Because these are a direct follow-on from some of the really core stabilisation exercises. So these sort of exercises.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
They're called rollovers.
Yeah.
So you've built up the endurance, to do this, but then the natural transition is there, and you're into these positions.
And can we see the world famous bird dog that was suggested that you have the best bird dog in the land? There it is.
Beautiful.
I know, magnificent. Right, lovely. Okay, so then we can get into some next chapter stuff. So we then get on to trying to liberate movement a little bit, multi-directional stuff, and start to stop sparing your spine. Show me some of the early stuff you were doing, unresisted, that started to gently expose you to more spinal movements.
Right, so basically just let it go. Go into free fall. So it was these sort of movements. It was playing.
Yeah.
It was, the old froggers.
Did you add speed immediately, or add speed slowly?
Everything slow.
Right.
Because at the time I would have thought, ooh, shit, can't do that. That'll hurt.
So movement first, then add speed, add resistance.
Then we're on the old mountain climbers.
Yeah.
Burpees.
And then building up to, if you just do one demo off the edge of the, you say you then challenge yourself to add some resistance to that with the Jefferson curl.
Jefferson curl.
Edge of here. Show us a rep of that. So contrary to what at that point, well, you've been spending a lot of time trying to spare the spine. This is kind of exposure in a different direction. So just show us that movement.
Conscious of the neutral point of your spine. This debate about posterior, anterior tilt, trying to find the neutral sweet spot.
Yeah.
And I'd build some reps.
Yeah, reps and sets. And again, you'd be ginger at first, then.
Oh, yeah. A lot of self-doubt with his Jefferson curl.
Right. Yeah, and then each step of the way, just tweaking one variable at a time, I imagine.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff we've been working on then is we started off, like you described on the podcast, as being sort of touching different parts of the wall, trying to add flexion and rotation, and we've built up to this as a bit of a drill that we've been doing. So if you follow me and try and keep hold of me. And we're going to be touching the floor. Okay, you lose me. As you're proving, better than me at it. Okay, wind it down. So, a whole scale there from that fearful movement behaviour of climbing on and off the floor all the way through to difficult dynamic tasks under resisted loads and applying a more movement liberating approach in which you can challenge yourself physically and not be fearful. Big change there, as hopefully you've seen. Thanks once again to Adrian. I know I'm out of breath and he's just shown me up, but I hope you've enjoyed it too. Thanks for your time.